pulls me in the air, it shivers cold and thin.
Echoes of the Forgotten Bride. Episode 6, Where the Sea Sleepers Lie. The ocean floor is a graveyard. Ships rest there. Bones rest there. Secrets that were meant to stay buried rest there. And some things guard those secrets, jealously. This is the 6th echo. Dr. Aris Thorne didn't believe in curses. She believed in evidence, in carbon dating and archaeological context and the scientific method. Which is why she'd spent the last 3 years trying to get funding to explore the wreck of the Medusa's Tear, a merchant vessel that sank off Haven's End in 1892, the night before the Forgotten Bride's wedding, according to local legend. Legend also said the ship carried something important, something connected to the bride's dowry, a silver ring, the ring, and that anyone who tried to retrieve it would be claimed by the sea. Aris thought that was superstitious nonsense. What she knew was that the wreck represented an untouched time capsule, Victorian-era artifacts, possibly valuable cargo, definitely valuable research. She'd finally secured the grant, not much, but enough for a small expedition. 2 divers, 3 weeks, 1 shot at making a discovery that could define her career. The problem was finding someone local who'd actually dived the site. Haven's End had plenty of divers, but mention the Medusa's Tear and they'd suddenly remember prior commitments. Other jobs, superstitious nonsense, Aris thought, but frustrating. Then she met Kai Novak. He ran a dive shop on the harbor, small operation, tourist charters mostly, but his certifications were impressive. Technical diver, mixed gas, deep wreck specialist, exactly what she needed. You want to dive the Medusa's Tear? Kai leaned back in his chair. His office was cluttered with equipment and faded charts. You know what people say about that wreck. I know what superstitious locals say. I'm interested in what a trained professional thinks. Kai smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. I think every diver who's gone down there has come back changed, or hasn't come back at all. I think the last expedition, 5 years ago, lost a man. Equipment failure, they said, but his dive partner quit diving entirely, moved inland, won't talk about it. Are you saying you won't do it? Kai studied her, really studied her, like he was measuring something. I'm saying it'll cost you double my usual rate, and we follow my safety protocols. No exceptions. You do exactly what I say when I say it. Fine, when can we start? Tomorrow's too soon, next week's too late. How about 3 days gives me time to prep equipment, check weather windows, make peace with whatever gods watch over fools. Aris smiled despite herself. You're very dramatic for a professional diver. And you're very confident for someone who's never dived below recreational limits. The Tear's at 180 feet. That's technical territory. Nitrogen narcosis, decompression sickness. A dozen ways to die if you're not careful. I'm always careful. We'll see. The 3 days passed in preparation. Aris reviewed her research, historical documents, ship manifests, survivor accounts. Only 3 crew members had survived the sinking. Their testimonies were confused, contradictory. They spoke of a storm that came from nowhere, of water that seemed alive, of something in the deep that wanted the ship. One survivor, the first mate, had mentioned the cargo, a chest containing the bride's dowry, silver, jewelry, and the ring, the silver lily ring that was supposed to seal the marriage pact. He said the chest was cursed, that taking it from the ship would doom them all. The captain had laughed, called him superstitious, ordered the chest loaded anyway. They'd made it 3 miles from shore before the storm hit. Kai spent the 3 days checking equipment. Tanks, regulators, dry suits, lights, reels, backup everything. He moved with the efficiency of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. Aris found herself watching him. He was probably 40, weathered. His hands were scarred from decades of handling equipment and marine life. He didn't talk much, but when he did, it was direct, honest. no games. So different from the academic world she lived in, the politics and posturing, Kai was just competent, solid, real. On the third day, they loaded his boat, a sturdy work vessel, nothing fancy, but well-maintained, reliable. The wreck site was 3 miles out. The water was calm, deceptively peaceful. Beneath them, 180 feet down, lay the Medusa's tier. Kai anchored, began the dive briefing. We go down together, we stay together. Maximum bottom time is 22 minutes, then we ascend, slow, with decompression stops. Total dive time will be about an hour. You feel anything wrong, any symptom of narcosis, confusion, euphoria, panic, you signal me immediately. Understood. Understood. They geared up, the equipment was heavy. The tanks alone weighed 40 pounds, the dry suit, the way. GHTS, by the time Aris was ready, she could barely move. Kai checked every piece of her gear, then his own, then hers again. You're sure about this? I've wanted this for 3 years, I'm sure. All right then, let's go meet a ghost ship. They entered the water. The cold was immediate, shocking, even through the dry suit. They descended the anchor line, hand over hand, leaving the world of light and air behind. At 30 feet, Aris's ears protested. She equalized, kept descending. At 60 feet, the light shifted, became blue-green. Alien. At 100 feet, it was twilight. Their lights were the only brightness. At 180 feet, the Medusa's tier appeared out of the gloom. She was beautiful, haunting. The wooden hull was remarkably preserved by the cold water and depth. Coral and anemones had claimed her, made her part of the reef. She lay on her side, broken masts reaching toward the surface like fingers. Aris felt a thrill. This was it. This was why she did this work, to touch history, to see what no one had seen in over a century. Kai tapped her shoulder, pointed to his watch. 22 minutes, then we go up. He pointed to himself, then to her. Stay close. They explored. The deck was treacherous. Rotted planks, fishing nets that had drifted over the wreck. Kai tied off a guideline, their lifeline back to the anchor. Aris photographed everything, the ship's wheel, the bell, the cargo hold entrance, and then she saw it, through a gap in the decking, a glint of metal, the chest. She pointed excitedly. Kai looked, nodded, but his expression was wary. He checked his dive computer, 12 minutes left. They worked to access the chest. Careful, the ship was fragile. One wrong move could cause a collapse. Kai used a pry bar. Slowly, the wood around the chest crumbled. And then it was free, smaller than Aris expected, ornate, with silver fittings, still locked. They'd open it on the surface. Kai attached a lift bag, began inflating it with air from his tank. The chest stirred, lifted, began rising toward the surface. Slow, controlled. Aris felt triumphant. They'd done it, found it, retrieved it. All the naysayers were wrong. That's when she saw Kai freeze. He was staring at something, his eyes wide behind his mask. She turned and saw it too. A figure standing on the deck of the wreck. Impossible. No one else was down here, but there she was, a woman in a wedding dress. The fabric moved in the current like it was alive. The bride. She wasn't quite solid, more like concentrated water, a shape the ocean had learned to hold. Her face was young, sad, and fixed on them with terrible intensity. Aris felt cold, colder than the water. Her thoughts slowed, confused, nitrogen narcosis. No, this was different. The bride moved, glided, reached for the guideline, the lifeline connecting them to the surface, and with one gesture severed it. The line drifted, free, useless. Kai grabbed Aris, pointed up. They had to ascend. Now, without the guideline, without the anchor line, they'd have to navigate by compass, by feel, in the open water. They began to swim up, but the bride followed, keeping pace. Her hand reached out, touched Aris's ankle, and Aris saw. Visions, memories, not hers, the bride's. The wedding day, the dress, the flowers, the joy that became confusion, became fear. The men loading the chest onto the ship, her father's cold voice, the dowry must reach its destination. The marriage will proceed. But the bride hadn't wanted it, hadn't wanted him. the man they'd chosen for her, and so she'd done something desperate. She'd cursed the ring, cursed the chest, cursed the marriage. If she couldn't be free, then no one would have her. The ship had sunk, the crew had drowned, and the bride's spirit had been bound to the wreck, guarding, waiting, ensuring no one took what belonged to her. The vision ended. Eris gasped, used too much air, her breathing was rapid, panicked. Kai grabbed her, forced her to look at him. Slow, breathe slow. She tried, but the bride was still there, still reaching, and now Eris saw something worse. Two figures, Kai and herself, floating, dead, eyes open, victims of the deep. A premonition, a future, their future if they didn't act. Kai saw it too, she could tell by his face, by the way his hand clenched. He'd seen them dead, seen their failure. The bride's face was serene, almost apologetic, but determined. You took what is mine, one of you must stay, one must remain, that is the price, that is the balance. Eris couldn't hear the words, but she understood them, felt them. One life for the chest, one life to stay, one life to live. Kai looked at Eris. Even through the masks, through the cold water and the horror, she saw his expression change, saw him make a decision. He reached for his weight belt, started to unbuckle it. He was going to drop his weights, make himself too buoyant, force himself to ascend too fast, cause an embolism, sacrifice him. Self so she could live. No, Eris grabbed his hands, stopped him. She shook her head violently. We both go, we both live. Kai pointed to the bride, to the premonition that still hung in the water like a photograph, pointed to himself, then up, offering himself. Eris refused. She was the one who'd wanted this dive, her expedition, her obsession. If anyone paid the price, it should be her. They were running out of time, out of air. The bride watched, patient, eternal. She had all the time in the world, they had minutes. Eris thought furiously, the vision, the premonition. It showed them dead, both dead, but premonitions weren't fixed. They were warnings, possibilities, not certainties. What if there was a third option? She grabbed Kai, pointed to the bride, then to themselves, then made a gesture, binding together. Kai's eyes widened, understanding, or thinking he understood. What are you suggesting? Eris knew it was insane, but insane was all they had left. She swam toward the bride. The spirit didn't retreat, just watched, curious. Eris removed her mouthpiece, spit it out. Kai lunged for her, tried to force it back in, but Eris was faster. She kissed the bride, pressed her lips to the cold, water-formed mouth, and breathed out, shared her air, shared her life, offered not death but connection. The bride's eyes widened, shocked. No one had ever offered her anything but fear, but violence, but theft. This was different, this was choice, freely given. Eris pulled back, took her regulator back, breathed, her lungs screamed, but she was alive, and the bride was looking at her differently. Then Kai understood. He did the same, removed his regulator, breathed into the water, into the bride, a gift, a recognition. You're not a monster, you're a prisoner, you didn't want this either. The curse, the binding, the eternal watch, we see you, we acknowledge you, and we offer you this, part of us, freely, so you don't have to be alone. The bride's face shifted, the anger drained away, replaced by something Eris had never expected to see in a spirit's face. Gratitude, hope. The bride reached out, not to grab, to touch, gentle, her hands on both of their faces, cold but not painful, just present. Then she smiled and released them. The premonition shattered, the dead versions of themselves dissipated, the water warmed slightly, and the bride began to fade, not disappearing, but dispersing, becoming part of the ocean again, free, finally free. Kai and Eris didn't wait, they swam, up slow, controlled, stopping at the decompression depths, 20 feet for 3 minutes, 10 feet for 8 minutes, the longest minutes of their lives. But they made it, broke the surface, gasped air, real air, sweet air, they were alive. The chest had surfaced too, floating nearby in its lift bag. They retrieved it, climbed into the boat, collapsed. For a long time neither spoke, just breathed, felt the sun, the wind, the world of the living. Finally, Kai laughed. It was a shaky sound, half hysteria, half relief. That was the most insane thing I've ever done, and I once dove inside a submarine wreck. Eris laughed too. We saw our deaths. We saw ourselves dead. Yeah, we did, and then we chose something else. Do you think she's really free, the bride? I think we gave her something she'd never had, a choice that wasn't about possession or sacrifice, just connection. Maybe that was enough. They opened the chest on the boat. Inside was silver, jewelry, documents, and the ring, the silver lily ring. It looked ordinary, pretty, but ordinary, just a piece of metal. The curse was gone, the weight was gone. Eris photographed it, catalogued it, but she knew she wouldn't keep it. It belonged to a museum, or better yet, back in the sea, a memorial, an acknowledgement. Over the next weeks, as they processed the artifacts, Eris and Kai spent more time together. Professional at first, debriefings, documentation, reports. But they'd shared something profound. They'd seen death, chosen life, chosen together. The attraction had been there from the beginning, but now it was undeniable. They'd breathed for each other, into each other, had offered their lives. That kind of bond didn't break easily. 3 months after the dive, Kai showed up at Eris's university office. She was grading papers. He had coffee. I've been thinking about that dive, about what we did, about you. Me too. I'm not an academic. I barely finished high school. I live on a boat. I smell like neoprene. We're completely different. Eris smiled, and yet we make a pretty good team when ancient sea spirits try to kill us. That we do, so I was thinking, maybe we could try being a team in other circumstances, ones with less mortal peril. Dinner maybe. Dinner sounds perfect, as long as we eat on land. I've had enough of the ocean for a while. Deal. They tried slowly, carefully. 2 people from completely different worlds finding common ground, finding that what Matt aired wasn't background or education. It was trust, partnership, the willingness to face the deep together and choose to come back. The silver lily ring went to the Havens End Maritime Museum, with a plaque in memory of the bride, in memory of all those claimed by the sea. May they find peace. And sometimes on quiet nights when Eris and Kai dove together for pleasure instead of research, they'd feel something. A presence, not threatening, just there, watching over them, grateful. The bride wasn't gone, but she was free. And freedom, it turned out, looked like forgiveness, like release, like the understanding that love doesn't require possession, just acknowledgement, just the simple act of being seen. The ocean remembers, but it also forgives. When you offer it truth instead of theft, connection instead of conquest, life instead of sacrifice. And those who survive the deep learn its most important lesson, that the strongest bond isn't the one that traps you, it's the one you choose, again and again, even when the darkness rises, even when death waits below. Especially then. This has been Echoes of the Forgotten Bride, Episode 6, Where the Sea Sleepers Lie. Join us next time for Episode 7, Every Pearl a Memory. Until then, remember that some prices can be negotiated, and some prisons can be opened from both sides.